and today's session we will be covering about physiology of cerebellum. Before going into the topic, please do subscribe my channel for more videos. So let's get into the topic. Today's topic is about the part 1 of cerebellum, which is including 3 subtopics, that is the divisions of cerebellum, connections of cerebellum, and the neuronal circuit of a cerebellum. The first subtopic, the divisions of cerebellum. Imagine the shape of a cerebellum as a circular in shape. Now, this circle is divided by 2 transverse fissures. How many lobes could you see? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Say along with me. The first lobe is otherwise called as anterior lobe. The second lobe is otherwise called as posterior lobe. The third lobe is otherwise called as a flocculonodular lobe. So friends, the other names of these lobes include: the anterior lobe is otherwise called as paliocerebellum. The posterior lobe is otherwise called as neocerebellum. The flocculonodular lobe is otherwise called as archicerebellum. This is the anatomical classification of cerebellum. If we are going to see the functional classification, once again draw a diagram. That is a circle. This circle is now divided into 2 equal regions by a middle called as a vermis. Now on either side, the lateralmost part that is present is known as the lateral zone. The zone that is present between the vermis and the lateral zone is termed as the intermediate zone. So friends, the first subtopic is being completed. Let's once again recapitulate. The divisions of cerebellum is included in 2 parts, that is anatomical classification, functional classification. Anatomical classification, you are going to see it is divided by 2 transverse fissures into 3 lobes, while the functional classification we are having 3 zones: vermis, intermediate and lateral zone. So let's see the next subtopic, the connections of cerebellum. To understand the connections of cerebellum, you must know some important points. Those important points include: the anterior cerebellum is connected with the spinal cord. The posterior cerebellum is connected with the cerebral cortex. The flocculonodular lobe is connected with the vestibular apparatus. So friends, once again repeat with me. It is the anterior lobe is connected with the cerebral cortex. The flocculonodular lobe is connected with the vestibular apparatus. Now, why have we named the second classification as functional classification? Because each and every zone is involved in function of only some of the things. Let us see. The vermis is involved in functioning of axial body, hip and neck, while the intermediate zone is involved in functioning of upper limb, lower limb distally, while the lateral zone, which is the important zone, is involved in overall planning and sequencing. Overall planning and sequencing. So friends, now to know the connections of cerebellum, it is nothing but you should know the inputs and outputs of cerebellum. Let us write the inputs. I have already said the first input is the cerebellum is connected to the spinal cord. So it is named as spinocerebellar tract. The second one, the cerebral cortex is connected with the posterior lobe. So it is named as cerebropontocerebellar tract. Why it is named like that means the fibers are coming from the cerebral cortex and via pons they are reaching the cerebellum. So they are named as cerebropontocerebellar tract. Now, the third, the vestibular apparatus is connected to the cerebellum. So they are named as vestibulocerebellar tracts. In addition to these, another 2 tracts are present which you have to remember blindly. Those include reticulocerebellar tract, olivocerebellar tract. It is named as reticulocerebellar tract because the efferents are coming from the reticular formation, while the olivocerebellar tract is named because the afferents are coming from inferior olive which is present in the medulla. So friends, these are the inputs. The inputs include spinocerebellar tract and the cerebropontocerebellar tract, vestibulocerebellar tract, reticulocerebellar tract and olivocerebellar tract. Now we are going to see the outputs. The outputs of cerebellum is mainly by, remember friends, it is by deep nuclear cells. This point is going to repeat and repeat in cerebellum. That is, it is asked very frequently in PG examinations that what is the output that is controlled by the cerebellum. It is deep nuclear cells are going to give the output. These deep nuclear cells are named basing on the region. If they are present near the vermis, or if they are present near the intermediate, if they are present in the lateral zone. If they are present in the vermis region, they are named as fastigial nucleus. If they are present in the intermediate region, they are named as enteropositus. If they are present in the lateralmost region, they are named as dentate. Remember the mnemonic FID. FID, feed. For deep nuclear cells, the mnemonic is FID. So friends, let's see the next subtopic, the neuronal circuit of a cerebellum. To understand the neuronal circuit, you should know some basic points. That is, the cerebellum is divided into, the outermost part of the cerebellum is named as cerebellar cortex. Now what happens? This cerebellar cortex is arranged into three regions. Those are molecular layer, Purkinje layer and granular layer. Now deep to these layers there is a presence of deep nuclear cells. I have already said and I again saying these deep nuclear cells are the reason for the output that are coming. This output may be excitatory or inhibitory. It depends upon this deep nuclear cell. If this is excited, we are getting the excitatory impulse. If this is inhibited, we are getting the inhibitory impulse. Remember friends, the inhibition of deep nuclear cell is always done by Purkinje cell. And the excitation of deep nuclear cell is done by afferent fibers that are coming. The afferent fibers that are coming to the cerebellum is divided into two types. Those are climbing fibers and mossy fibers. Say along with me friends, the climbing fibers are going to come and they are going to end at the Purkinje layer by synapsing with almost 300 Purkinje cells. And they are going to give a branch to the deep nuclear cell. This is about the climbing fiber. Now let us see about the mossy fibers. The mossy fibers are going to end at the granular layer. They are going to end at the granular cell. Now from this granular cell, we are going to see a rise of two parallel fibers. Now these two parallel fibers are going to run along the length of a Purkinje cell and ultimately they are going to synapse with the Purkinje cells. So friends, let's once summarize it. It is we having two types of fibers that are climbing fibers and mossy fibers. They are giving two branches. One branch is directly to the deep nuclear cell which is the excitatory branch and other branch is to the Purkinje cell which is ultimately leading to the formation of inhibition. So friends, you could see two things are occurring. One is the excitation and other is the inhibition. Excitation is by a direct branch to the deep nuclear cell. Inhibition is by other branch that is going to the Purkinje cell. Remember friends, Purkinje cell is always inhibitory in nature, while the branch from the direct afferent fibers is always excitatory in nature. There is an interplay between the excitatory and inhibitory. We are going to see first there is a message sent to the deep nuclear cell by the ascending fibers. So we are going to see first excitation, followed by we are going to see there is an inhibition by the Purkinje cell. So we are going to see a complex that is consisting of inhibition and excitation. That is excitation followed by inhibition. These type of complex is known as spike complex. So friends, thank you for your valuable patience, and next topic will be on remaining parts of cerebellum.